Okay, so today we'll be doing a video on both episode 4 and 5 of Gquuuuuux. I originally was going to do them separately, but I sort of got home late due to delayed flights and wasn't able to get 4 out before 5 basically came out, so I think we'll just do both at the same time. Also, I had decided to record this today because yesterday by the time I got everything ready it was too late and there's peak traffic outside. I've been having issues with traffic noise, but it's now peak traffic time on the next day, so this happened and I've got like an hour to record this, so this will be fine. Okay, so starting off with episode 4, we're introduced to a new character, Chica. She's first introduced and she's looking for a junk dealer, which obviously the Pomeranians are basically junk dealers, so Matthew sort of introduces them and helps her out, and she's essentially trying to track down who has the Red Gundam, as essentially it is later revealed that she's a very ace pilot from the 1 Year War, and her Mav was killed by the Char and the Red Gundam, and she's basically out for revenge. Then we skip forward a bit. She's basically working with an experimental. Essentially, it's a clan battle team that's also mostly, I think, like for arms deals and stuff. And she's basically given a Galog, a county in-service Xeon Mobile Suit. And here we go, the Galog. Oh, Galgoog, the Galgoog. Which is like, it looks a bit different. As I mentioned in essentially the prologue, that one of the Xeon Mobile Suit manufacturers essentially cancels all their current production and research and starts working on Gundam derivatives. So what essentially has happened is they still use the old name, so instead of getting the Galog, we have the Galog. I don't know why I'm saying Galog, I'm missing the middle G. It's okay. Very different. The old one's definitely better. But yeah, so we get into the fight. So it is obviously Matthew in the Gquuuuuux, Shuji in the Red Gundam, and then we have Chica in a Galgog, and there's someone else who works for the company also a Galgog as well. And so it turns out this lady has been known as the Witch, because essentially she leaves a bunch of like stigmata on her victims, and essentially what she's doing is basically she has like a grappling system where she basically shoots a hook into someone and has been able to use them to pivot around to essentially outmaneuver them, which is actually a really interesting concept. And yeah, she basically does the same thing to Shuji. And essentially what's happening in this fight, it's essentially kind of fixes one of the complaints I had about the last one, where Matthew did everything. This is the opposite, as basically she's so focused on Shuji and the Red Gundam that she, like, basically Matthew doesn't do anything in this match. It's literally just essentially a 1v1 versus the Chica and Shuji. Eventually we get some flashbacks. This is about how her partner died in a war. And then eventually Shuji kills her. Beam saber right through the cockpit and she dies. And obviously there's some sort of new type stuff where essentially Matthew is eventually given like a flashback-ish. Sort of reveals that she has a kid and a family as well, which may have been revealed earlier, I just can't remember. And there's basically, so obviously this whole situation is probably quite horrific for, traumatizing for Matthew, you'd think, potentially. And she's basically just witnessing everything happening psychically. Yeah, and that's basically the end of it. I mean, we get the teaser for next episode, which is Neon doesn't know what Kira Kira is, which is what Machu calls essentially the psychic new type connection thing. But yeah, so for the first time ever, I have an ad. It's not a paid ad or anything, but it's just an affiliate link. But yeah, if you like tea, coffee, or even soap, you can use my code TORIMIGAKU to get 10% off at Dragon's Treasure. I've also got a link in the description as well. But yeah, on to the next episode. So basically, the episode starts off with essentially Matthew's outside sunbathing with three guys from Pomeranians who are like she's actually like basically like, oh, she's not actually a refugee, so like, essentially like this is the first time she's seen anything bad, for like is she going to be okay? And they were like kind of worried. The next minute the boss comes in, is like, you guys don't understand women. She comes out, she has donuts, and they start sunbathing together. So this helps with your trauma apparently. But I think there's a bunch of contemplation about life and everything. So next up we have Xavier, has essentially he's volunteered himself to try and track down the Gquuuuuux, and he hasn't been having the best opportunity with it. Yeah, but he's basically just working on that. Then they go see Shuji, who's apparently really sick, and no one seems to have noticed that he's really sick. And he likes how it feels cool to lie on the Gundam. So Neon gets basically stripped down to underwear and joins him, and Matthew's like, what the fuck's happening? And then does it as well. So that is why we have that scene. Obviously we've complained from Haru saying that she's naked, and she shouldn't be, but hey, it happened. Then we sort of get a scene where basically Neon and Matthew are heading towards the Pomeranians to get into it, so they can basically take part in the clan battle, or Matthew can. And then there's an altercation at a train station where some military police realize Neon probably is a refugee. Then Matthew kicks one of them in the balls and they sort of have to escape. This is where Xavier sort of runs into Matthew and then essentially helps her get away from the police, but then also essentially gets her stuck in a situation where he can essentially prove that she's not the pilot, and because she's going to be late for clan battle. So we end up getting Neon in the mobile suit, with a one-off chance comment from the guys at Pomeranians like, she looks a bit slimmer than normal, because they just think it's Matthew. Which is kind of funny. And yeah, so in this battle where they're going to be coming up against two Dons, or technically Rick Dons. It is two members of the tribe Black Stars. The third one became a politician. And oh my god, the Dons are just... from the front on, they look almost normal, but then like, we see they essentially have a third leg over the back. It's like, what the hell's wrong with this? That's okay, that's not what this video is about. That's for the final video. But yeah, so essentially they start fighting. Shuji almost does nothing this fight because he's too sick. He's just sort of chilling. And then they basically both target, because I think they realize that whoever normally pilots the Gquuuuuux is the rookie, like the least experienced, so they basically just target her entirely, to a point where they're actually using like sort of cables and trying to electrocute her to death. And she can kind of function, but then she gets really pissed off, which causes the psycho immune to activate. And yeah, and then she can suddenly see the Kirakara, or the psychic stuff, and is able to operate it quite well, which is not what I would have expected, but hey, it seems to be okay. Due to the power of rage. So essentially what she ends up doing is she kills one of them by stabbing him through the cockpit, which causes the dome to explode. And then the next one, I originally thought she chopped his head off, then it exploded, which I was like, oh, this is just like normal Gundam now. But no, she actually chops it in half, then it explodes. and you basically just have scene where there's like two giant fireballs in the background. And obviously, Matthew's been watching this the entire time. She basically gets NTR'd. It's like that scene from Rent a Girlfriend where he's in the pool. Her Kirikiri was supposed to be for only her and Shuji. Who's sort of crying, running to parliamentarians. Gets into one of the sort of access ways. And then Neon gets up, stops, sees her, gets out, and she's like, Neon. She got cucked by Neon. So that was kind of funny. And yeah, that is basically into episode 5. So potentially we have a drama coming next week. Or is Shuji slowly building harem against his will? I don't know. But yeah, I think the next week's trailer is, it's called An Assassination Plot Against Cresselia. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week. But yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on things thought-worthy in my opinion. I guess everything I have opinions on is the best way to put that. For episode 4 and 5 of Gquuuuuux. In my first ever sort of like chilling ad thing, Bob. But yeah, thank you for coming, and I'll see you all probably this time next week. I'll probably have the next one up. And yeah, have a good rest of your weeks. And also, if you have any comments, just leave them below. It's always helpful.